Good evening and welcome back to Train Tuesday. I'm your host, Jim Wiggin, and we are going to be talking gonds tonight. We're going to be talking gondolas. We're going to be talking gondolas in the Genesis line. We're going to be talking HO scale, and we're going to be talking N scale. So everybody is included tonight, unless you model S or O. But if you model HO or N, we've got your gondolas here. We're going to be talking about them extensively tonight. First of all, if you're joining us on the live feed, thanks so much for joining us. We really do appreciate your support. And if you're watching us later on the YouTube, I want to thank you for finding us. And while you're there, if you like the content, go ahead and like and subscribe. Hit the notification bell. That way you'll know that every Wednesday there's a new Train Tuesday that's dropped, and there's always new videos coming out. In fact, we're going to be doing another Athearn Extra next week, so keep your eyes peeled for that announcement. Let's see who is joining us here tonight. I've got Cody, Joel, Winona, Elko Man Kyle, Kevin, Abel, Model Railroad Enthusiast, Brian Stackpole, Donnie, Richard, BN Green 1970, Brody, BNSF 9708, Donnie, John Robert Fox, Harold, and Mr. Ashcroft looking for N-scale tacos. Man, you're going to have to eat a lot of those tacos to get full. We've got Reading Steam Engine 2102, Ronald, Anthony, Thomas, Richard, Austin, Rojo Railfan, just to name a few. So we've got a full house here. We've already got about 112 that have come on board live. I want to thank you for joining us. So like I said, we're going to be talking HO and N-scale Athearn Genesis gondolas. National Steel Corporation, both 6000 and 6400 series gondolas, brand new models. Now you probably know I monitor Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, YouTube, all of those social media outlets, and I never, ever am disappointed by the N-scale guys. Every time we announce something, the N-scale guys are like, hey, we want that too. So guess what? This month, that's what we did. We're offering everything that we're going to talk about tonight in HO. And N-scale guys, you too. So I hope you N-scale guys are here with us tonight. If not, catch us on the YouTube. One more thing too, don't forget, the end of the month, I'm going to be at the Amherst Railroad Hobby Show. That's in Springfield, Massachusetts. It's the last weekend in January. Myself, Mark Williams, and John Stackpole, the PD developer himself, will be there in person. So feel free to stop by the booth. We're going to be in the Mallory building, section 116. And you can ask all those questions you've wanted to ask in real life, plus see some cool models that we'll have on display. Let's do one more shout out round, and then we'll get right into today's topic. I see Terry, Sid, Joe, Tim, Dave, BNSF N-scale, Ibuprofen Dave, Eugene Daniels Jr., Thomas, Butch, and Go Via or Go Home. Terry is here as well. So let's go ahead and do what we always do. Let's put down the hobby knife, get comfortable in our workshop chairs, grab the beverage of your choice, and let's get started for another Train Tuesday. So like I said, we are going to be talking a little bit about Athearn Genesis NSC gondolas, both 6000s and 6400s. So what we have here first, this is a CAD drawing that I will zoom in a little bit here for you guys. So let's talk a little bit about the background of these. Now, starting in the late 2010s, National Steel Car began construction of these giant 6,000 cubic foot capacity gondolas. Now, these exquisite Athearn Genesis models will capture all of the details and all of the variations of the prototypes. Our state-of-the-art tooling is going to replicate the detailed bodies and massive dimensions of these prototypes. Separate details include full brake rigging, grab irons, etched crossover platforms, and more. We'll talk about those features both on the HO and the N-scale side in a little bit. Now you can add these definitive NSC 6000 gondolas to your modern roster with these all new Athearn Genesis cars. Now here's the CAD drawing. There's a couple of things we'll show you tonight too. Not only this CAD drawing. Now remember, This is early on, but you see it's got a scrap load. So for the 6000 series, they're going to include a scrap load. Now I want you to look carefully. If you look at these, they look like telescoping legs. They're segmented here into three distinct lengths, if you will. Now the reason why they're designed that way is you as the modeler can adjust the height of your load very easily. Get a pair of cutters and you can cut off just that first section, or you can go all the way to the second section, and that way you can actually adjust your load. Now, will these loads be available separately? It's kind of early to say. We are getting a lot of feedback on that. There is a possibility in the future that we'll offer these separately. Will they fit other gondolas? Probably not, because they've basically been made to fit exclusively the NSC 6000s, and we'll also have some for the 6400s that we'll talk about in a moment. So coming up first is American Iron and Metal. This is car number 20149. This is based on, and the good thing is if you're an HO or an N scale modeler and you're modeling the here and now, the today, these are the cars for you. These are based on 2020 prototypes. Now, this is a proudly Canadian company. American Iron and Metal has its head office in Montreal, Quebec, from which it provides support to 3,000 employees and 90 locations around the globe. So you guys that are in the upper parts of the United States and in Canada, you're definitely going to want to put these into your fleet. And we'll talk about how we're offering these as well in the next few minutes. Here is IMRX 2330. Now, this is recycling of integrated metals, or RMI for short. They were created in October of 2020 following the alliance between Acrometal, Long Products of Canada, and Triple M Metal. Now, since the creation of this joint venture, RMI has proven to be in continuous expansion, and an acquisition in March of 2022 has been completed, and this is just the beginning. So this is not really a startup company, but it's a company that's growing, and so they have a fleet of these cars as well. This is based on the paint scheme that they had in 2020 and going forward. Now remember, everything that I'm showing you right here is available in both HO and N scale. So this one here, Louisiana Producing and Carbon Company, this is car number 2232, based on a 2020 paint scheme on up to today. They were established in 1975. Triple M Metals has grown from modest beginnings to become one of North America's largest privately held, fully integrated recyclers of ferrous and non-ferrous scrap metals. Triple M Metals operates 31 facilities across North America, including Canada, the United States, and Mexico. And they also have additional interest in Europe. Now, those are the cars that we're offering in the NSC 6000 series. They're available in both HO and N scale. So here's a few features that I want to point out on these cars. HO scale first. Okay, they're available in a single at $64.99 MSRP, or also in two packs priced at $109.99 MSRP. Again, that is full retail. Check your dealer for your price. All the HO scale cars are going to include metal grab irons, etched metal crossover platforms where applicable, accurate brake piping, metal and plastic components, brand new tooled Barber S2E 100-ton trucks with animated bearing caps. The other cool thing about those trucks is the printed road numbers per the prototype. So when you get these in HO scale, you're going to see the printed road number printed on the truck, just like the full scale prototype. They are going to include the included scrap load that I showed you earlier. They are weighted to NMRA standards. They all will feature the body-mounted McHenry lower shelf couplers. Now, we're not showing that in the artwork, but they're going to have the lower shelf couplers. Just keep that in mind. And for you guys that are operating on a home layout, a club layout, or even a modular layout, minimum radius on these is 22 inches. Recommended, however, is 24. Segueing over to the N scale, same thing, available in two different singles, obviously with different road numbers. They're going to MSRP at $44.99. Also, they're going to be available in 2-packs, just like their HO scale brethren. They're going to be MSRP at $79.99. Now, here's the features of the N-scale cars, and keep note, these are Genesis N-scale models. So they're going to have some details that the N-scale guys are probably not used to. They're going to have separately applied metal grab irons, metal etched crossover platforms where applicable, accurate brake piping, bent wire cut levers. It's kind of a new thing for N-scale. HO scale guys have had this on their freight cars for a number of years. N-scale guys in the Genesis line now have this feature. Rubber train line hoses. It too will have removable scrap loads. Screw-mounted 100-ton roller bearing trucks. Body-mounted McHenry lower shelf knuckle couplers. All the wheels will have the RP25 contour. Of course, they're going to be accurately painted and printed per the prototype, already optimally weighted per NMRA standards. And they're going to operate on everything from your standard code 80 track all the way down to code 40 track. Minimum radius on these is 11 inches. Recommended radius on these is 15. So if you've got a small compact layout, they're going to still operate okay on an 11-inch radius. Not going to work on a 9 3/4. 11, they're going to look a little cartoonish. If you can get a 15-inch radius in there, they're going to look a lot better. And again, these are Athearn Genesis, so they really do tend to look better on much larger radiuses. So there you are. We have the 6000s. So we're going to be showing these throughout the year. We're hoping to get some samples. I don't think we're going to have anything in time for the Springfield show, but we are going to the Denver show. That's coming up in April. So hopefully we'll have some samples for you guys to see. But you have until Friday the 27th to pre-order any of these cars that I've talked about. Again, they're going to come as 2 separate singles as well as 2 2-packs. Many of these run in conjunction with scrap trains, mainly scrap metal, things of that nature. If you hear guys call them trash trains, yeah, technically trash, but it's usually some type of metal type of product is in there. Hence our scrap loads are to look like scrap metal. So before we go on further, I'm going to see if anybody has any questions on these. Isaac had a question here. Jim, are you able to give us a quick rundown on which class 1s these 6400s can be seen on? So from what I can tell, a lot of Norfolk Southern, perhaps some CSX, obviously some Canadian National. I'm sure there's some other class 1s that I'm missing. But if you're modeling modern day, anything from 2020 to now, it's a fair bet you're going to see these. They are quite common in the Northeast as well as Canada, but that's not the only places they're limited to. Obviously, there's some in the South, Southwest and Southeast. So those are just a quick rundown of some of the ones that I know of off the top of my head. So here's a little bit of a verification for you. Here's from Joel. He says, I see them on the Union Pacific frequently in Oregon. So there you go. Just like any manifest train that you're modeling, you're going to have to do a little bit of research. But these are pretty common. All right. I'm going to go back and see if there's any questions while I was running the show. Yeah, that one's probably going to be pretty popular. Glenn is really thankful for us making this. Thank you, Glenn. Glenn, if you were one of the folks that took advantage of our Athearn product suggestion email, thank you. This is why we have that email out there. We did have a lot of requests for these. We had a lot of guys, especially in N-scale. A lot of N-scale guys were lamenting that there's not enough modern day, present day prototypes. And so this is perfect for the N-scale guy that is modeling the here and now, as I call it, right now. There's a lot of stuff for steam and 50s and 60s in N-scale, but not as much modern as a lot of N-scales would like. All right. So with that, let's go ahead and start talking about the 6400s. We've got a little bit of a split here because we had a surprise for the N scalers, and that was we came out with the first run of NSC 6400s and HO scale back in November. And that's when a lot of N scale guys are like, hey, what about us? We want these too. So your ship has come in the form of the January announcements. Now, check this out. I'm going to go ahead and get some close-ups on this so you guys can see the detail. Now, remember, there's 9 body variations to this. This is the HO scale version. But there's 9 variations. But keep in mind that the N scale guys are going to have some of the same features. This cut lever down here, the crossover platform, depending on the prototype, that'll be there. All that brake and piping is going to be included in the HO and the N scale. And don't forget the newly tooled trucks, 100-ton trucks. Now let's talk about what we're going to be showing off for both HO and N scale. So the Athearn Genesis HO and N scale NSC 6400 gondola with load or cover. Remember when we released these back in November, a lot of you guys were asking, what about the covers? There are some prototypes out there, they have these fiberglass covers. They cover the scrap load, they cover whatever the load is in the gondola. They're made out of fiberglass and they're easily stacked up, kind of like a plastic tote wherever they end up. Well, we're going to offer at least one of these car releases with that cover, which as far as I know hasn't been done before. Now, a little bit of background on these guys. This is going back to 2006. National Steel Car began construction of these giant 6,400 cubic foot capacity gondolas. Now, just like the 6000s, these are going to be exquisite Athearn Genesis models, and they're going to capture all the details, all the variations of the prototypes. The state-of-the-art tooling is going to replicate the 9 build variations as well as the multiple top chord and end variations. Separate details include, and not limited to, full brake rigging, grab irons, etched crossover platforms, plus more. So this is your chance to add these in either HO or N scale. You have until Friday, January 27th to add these to your fleet. Let's talk about the ones that we're offering this time. Now, these are brand new for HO and N. And the first one that we have here is Coastal Distribution LLC. This is car number 16003. This is based on a paint scheme from 2016, but is still applicable today. Coastal Farmingdale is a leading construction and demolition debris transfer station located in Farmingdale, New York, and it's serving the New York metro area. Located on Long Island, Coastal Farmingdale is an enclosed rail-served transfer station with the ability to accept up to, get this, 2,500 tons of C&D per day and one of the only 2 rail-served transfer stations on Long Island. That's a pretty cool background on those. Now here's the one with the cover. This is the CIT group. This is based on 2014 on up. Now, you may know this because you've probably seen CIT. They have everything from locomotives to boxcars. CIT maintains one of the youngest, but also the most diversified rail car and locomotive fleets in the industry. So these are used out in lease service. And go to their website at some point. CIT is a much bigger corporation. Their rail network is just a small part of that corporation. And like I said, they've got locomotives, they've got boxcars, flat cars, all different types of gondolas. And again, this is one based on 2014 on up. Here's American Railcar Leasing. This is car number 6200001. This is based on a paint scheme, a little bit older, 2008. It's still applicable for today, however. American Railcar Leasing was formed in July of 2004. It's a subsidiary of American Railcar Industries. American Railcar Leasing, acquired via a series of transfer transactions between related companies. The railcars and related leases from ACF Industries, LLC, and the railcar leasing operations, which were transferred to ARL. It has a history. I mean, if you start kind of going through and dissecting all the different mergers and business transactions, the history of this company really goes back all the way back to 1923. Coming up next is West Coast Cooperative Road. This is car number 527. A little bit older. It's 2007, but again, it is applicable for today. Now, before I go on, this is where we stop with the HO and N scale. This is the bulk of the HO scale releases because you've already had one release. That was back in November. Now going forward, we're going to do just the N scale. Before I go on to the N scale, though, let me let you know what the features are of the HO that we've seen so far. N scale guys, don't worry. You're getting these in N scale as well. We'll talk about your features when we get done with the rest of the lineup. So the HO is available as 2 singles, obviously different road numbers. They're going to MSRP at $64.99. They're also available in 1 2-pack, and that is $109.99. Now keep in mind, there's 9 build variations, and the build range is from 2006 all the way to present day. So there's multiple body styles, multiple end variations, multiple detail top chords, multiple ladder variations, metal grab irons, etched metal crossover platforms, again, applicable based on the prototype, newly tooled Barber S2E 100-ton trucks with animated rolling bearing caps, and those cool printed road numbers on the trucks per the prototype. That's really cool. These are all going to include either the removable scrap load or the cover. The covered ones, again, the covers are not available separately. Will they be in the future? We're going to have to see. There's a possibility we might offer those as a separate piece in the future, but for right now, I don't have an answer for you. They are going to be all weighted to NMRA standards. All of them are going to have body-mounted McHenry lower shelf couplers, and they're going to have a minimum radius of 22 inches. However, they look so much better on a radius of 24 inches. So now that concludes all the HO and N. We're going to jump right into N scale. Now, HO guys, you probably pre-ordered these back in November, so sit tight and let the N scale guys have some fun. This first one here is American Iron and Metal. This is car number 14010. This is based on a paint scheme of 2014. Again, still applicable for today. They don't really change too much other than getting some drastic weathering. You guys probably remember these from November. These are being offered in N scale now. Cardella Waste Service of New Jersey. Can anybody guess what state that's in? If you guessed New York, you'd be wrong. With over 65 years experience in the waste removal industry, Cardella has realized a steady and responsible growth that puts us at the forefront in meeting today's more sophisticated waste management requirements. They offer 2 facilities in New Jersey, which both accept materials, and they're proud to have worked in the first green skyscraper in New York City. I'm going to try to pronounce this. You guys from New York City, yay or nay, let me know if I pronounce it right. But the Condé Nast building at 4 Times Square, and to have helped set the standards for waste recycling practices used in today's LEED certified projects. So if you're from that area, New Jersey, New York, you've probably seen these. And this is the first time we're offering them an N scale. Again, HO scale guys, you had your opportunity back in November. Coming up next, now this is Spanish, so for all of my folks, all of my friends south of the border, please forgive me for butchering this name, but Desario SADCV bordering Monterrey, De Acero is the largest steel wire manufacturer in Mexico. So obviously they would have a fleet of these because there's going to be recycling in that type of industry. So we've brought these out in N scale as well. This is based on a 2012 paint scheme. Murphy Road Recycling LLC. This is another one that's a Northeast road. This is based on a 2019 paint scheme. They're headquartered in Enfield, Connecticut. It is actually part of a family-owned and operated team of subsidiaries and affiliates that provide recycling and waste management services to Connecticut and Western Massachusetts. So if you're from that neck of the woods, you've probably seen at least one of these in the last few years. This car here, Residgo 1729, it's based on a 2019 paint scheme. They are an industry leader in railcar leasing. As a highly experienced and sophisticated rail investor, they provide value to their leases through net and full service operating leases, lease restructurings, modifications, and fleet optimization projects. They integrate their wide knowledge of all freight car and locomotive types with the custom financial structures as necessary to achieve the most competitive rent outcomes. Pretty cool little background on that. So kind of like the CIT group, got a leasing agent here with these cars. And again, these are 2019 to modern day. And then last but not least, here is the IWXX. This is car number 220004, based on last year's paint scheme, 2022. So new, I couldn't even find any real information on these guys. But one of the newer cars out of the NSC 6400s. So with that being said, let's go over the features for the N scale. A couple of things to remember in the N scale on these cars. They're going to be available as 2 separate singles. So if you want 1 or 2 of these with different road numbers, you have that availability. They're going to retail at $44.99. You can also get a 2-pack, which will include 2 additional cars, also with different road numbers. They're going to retail at $79.99. Now, believe it or not, N scale, you're going to have separately applied metal grab irons, metal etched crossover platforms, again, based on the prototype, accurate brake piping, metal and plastic components both, bent wire coupler cut levers, rubber train line hoses. Each car is going to include a removable scrap load, and if it's the CIT one, it will have a removable cover. Screw-mounted 100-ton roller bearing trucks, body-mounted McHenry lower shelf knuckle couplers, machine metal wheels. Of course, they're going to be accurately painted and based on a prototype because they are Athearn Genesis. They're going to be weighted for the optimum ability up to the NMRA standards, and they'll operate on all brands of track. Again, they'll run on your standard code 80. They'll run on code 55. They'll run on code 40 even. You'll have no issues with that. Now, what's the minimum radius you want to run these on? Like the 6000s, you're going to want to run these on 11-inch radius. They look better, however, on 15. So if you're running some of the larger modular practices, say like Fremo, probably not as big of a problem. Some of the larger N-track setups, probably not a problem. T-track, it might be close call there. Probably better for the larger of the modular setups. And if you have a home layout, even if it's just a small switching layout, as long as you've got a radius that's no smaller than 11 inches, you should be fine. So with that, there we have it. That is the NSC 6400s and the NSC 6000s. I know that's a lot of stuff. We had to cover a lot of ground tonight. But again, for you guys that are in HO and N scale that have been asking for modern cars, here you go. I mean, the 6000s are so new that if you look at the paint schemes on them, they're 2020 on up. So absolutely modern. Now, I've got time for a few questions. Let's see what's going on out there in the chat world. Let's see. Sid wants to know what's going to be shown at Amherst. Well, we're going to show some locomotives and some freight cars. Is there something new? You're working on something. We'll have to see. I've been bugging John. John's been busy working on something. So, and don't forget, John's going to be there too. So if you have a question about how we actually prototypes this stuff, how we research this stuff, all that kind of stuff, John's going to be there. If you can catch him, you can definitely talk to him. He has a wealth of knowledge on this because he's been doing this for so many years. Abel says, Jim, thank you so much. We N scalers appreciate these new cars. I'm glad you do. I really am. N scale, we've been accused in the past of not focusing on N scale or ignoring the N scale community. That's not true. We all know, I'm an N scaler myself, HO is the lion's share of the hobby. However, that being said, N scale has made some serious inroads in the last 5 years. And believe it or not, the Athearn Genesis line of N scale, it's new for us, but there's guys that are out there that do N scale that have been putting those details on their freight cars for a number of years. Now they don't have to. And we hope to introduce some more N scale models throughout 2023. Delta 9 is extremely pleased with what we're doing. Thank you for your support. Isaac, I am not 100% sure on those IWXX cars where they can be located. I tried to do some research on that yesterday. Unfortunately, with my time constraints, I came up empty, but I'm sure somebody out there in the comments will know. I'll have to ask John. John might know since he did the research on these. Reading Steam is saying those gondolas are awesome. Yeah, they really are, and they're huge. I mean, I modeled the 60s into the 70s, and I mean, even the Milgons, it seems so big. These are dwarfed by these 6000s and these 6400s. So hopefully when I'm out east in a couple of weeks, when I'm back home, hopefully I'll get to see a couple of these. What else do we have for questions? All right, so a lot of you guys have been really happy to see these. We get this question every now and then. Since you guys are doing these in N scale, will you also be doing these in S scale? Now, don't laugh. S scale is actually making some inroads as well. S scale is not just American Flyer. Now, does Athearn have any plans to do S scale? I can honestly say nothing in the near future. But if marketing, if sales trends start to follow where we're starting to see guys doing S scale and it starts becoming a contender, you can bet that Athearn's going to be on the forefront of that. Do these cars haul trash? Yeah, as we were saying in one of the cars, I think it's a Murphy Road Recycling. They are out of Enfield, Connecticut, and what they do is they are a recycling service. Instead of it just everything going into a landfill and sitting there for millions of years, stuff is getting sorted, it's thrown in there. But the biggest commodity these gondolas are going to have are scrap metal. And if you know, scrap metal is valuable. When a construction site is building a new building and there's scrap, they want to salvage as much of that as possible. Likewise, if they're tearing down an older building, most of the time that scrap is worth a lot of money. They can load those onto transfer station, put them into the gondolas, and take them and get some cash out of them. So that's what they're really mainly using them for. Yes, with the Athearn HO versions, you will. And that's true with any of the Genesis models, if in any of the cars. In fact, I just ordered this for myself, the Archer Daniels Midland Trinity covered hopper. This has rotating wheel bearing caps, and there is a little poly bag that's included, and it usually includes 2 bearing caps. So same with these. You'll have some extras because they can get lost. All right, I've got time for one more question, and then I'm going to let you guys get back to it. Jay wants to know, is that your layout behind you or the company's? It's actually my home layout. This is one that I've been working on since about August. I hate to say it, I haven't done much with it in the last few weeks because of the holidays. Hopefully by spring, we'll actually see a running train on there. To answer someone's question, Capital Region Railfan says, I've seen the IWXX cars on trains in upstate New York. So there you go. Anthony adds, Jim, I have a scrapyard on my layout, and these cars are welcome. Thank you. Pre-ordered all of them. Wow, thank you, Anthony. We appreciate that. Hopefully you're one of the guys that sent us a product suggestion. All right, with that, I want to let you guys go. I want to thank you for joining us here tonight on Train Tuesday. Now, again, don't forget, we're going to be at the Amherst Railroad Hobby Show. Now, the cool thing about that is we're going to be there the same weekend that we do the February announcements. So who knows what's going to show up. Now, we're going to have a full booth there. Again, we're going to be in the Mallory building, section 116. So from the outside entrance, as you walk into the Mallory building, we're basically going to be the first booth that you see on the left-hand side. So look for myself, look for Mark, look for John. All three of us are going to be there all weekend answering questions. I will be stocking up on Dunkin' Donuts regular coffee. We'll be looking forward to talking to you guys and also seeing some great layouts. We're going to have some new models that we announced last year that aren't in stock yet, but by the time we get to Springfield, they'll only be a few weeks away, as well as some stuff that you might have forgotten about that will be in stock, and definitely a good opportunity for you to pick those up after you see them at the booth. Plenty of vendors at the show. If you've never been to the Amherst Railroad Hobby Show, do a search on your preferred web browser and check it out. It's definitely well worth the trip. One of my favorite shows, and 4 buildings of nothing but model trains. Also, remember that we're going to be doing a live stream, Athearn Extra, next week. So watch your social media for when that's going to come out. I'm going to have some special guests, and there's just a lot going on this month. Everything we talked about, you have until Friday, January 27th to pre-order everything we've talked about. So thanks again for joining us. I hope you have a pleasant evening. Be happy, be healthy, be safe, do some good modeling, and above all, high greens. Good night, everyone.